Before we begin, did you know you could potentially win any of these neat prizes just by donating to charity? To find out more, click the card in the upper right corner. Hey everyone, Skull902 here. Seems like you guys are really enjoying the Amy Rose video essays because this idea destroyed the other options in the poll I set up for this one. So Amy, as I spoke about in my two previous videos on the subject, is a character who's been the subject of a lot of discourse and stupid fan warring alike because of how differently she's been portrayed over the years. One thing in particular I hear from plenty of the detractors, and even some of the fans of her current portrayal, is that she's been made into a boring stand-in whose only personality trait is her definitely not tarot fortune cards, which replaced the Pico Pico hammer as her main thing in terms of ability. But has it really though? Allow me to take a dive into the subject. Let's start with a little bit of history. Amy's profile in the Japanese manual for Sonic CD describes card reading as one of her personal hobbies, and it's revealed that said hobby led her to meeting Sonic at Neverlake. Card reading and mysticism aren't mentioned in the Western material, and even then, it's not brought up again or played upon for the rest of the classic era. They would make references to it in certain places after the adventure games, but for nearly 30 years, those nods to her mystic side were exceedingly rare. Instead, Amy's moveset from Sonic the Fighters had a lot more influence on her character after the transition to 3D. Her physical abilities are centered around the hammer in Sonic Adventure. In my opinion, it sets her apart from the other characters to have a signature weapon like this. Over time, Amy was able to become fast and strong enough to keep up with her friends, but the hammer was always there. One could say based on this that the hammer actually replaced her interest in card reading. That said, in 2021, things would start to change. In Sonic Origins, each game has a new animated intro and outro, and Sonic CD is no exception. Amy reads her cards at Neverlake, which could just be seen as Sega following the Japanese manual. Where it got incorporated into the modern era, however, was in Sonic IDW number 45, where Amy uses the cards to read fortunes to her friends. And again, it seemed small since it was just that one scene. I think when the final Horizon update of Sonic Frontiers came out 2 years later, discussion on the subject really got going. The Pink Hedgehog already had some detractors from her portrayal in the base game, centered on how she wasn't as bubbly as usual and that there were no conversations between her and Sonic about her feelings for him. Whether you agree with the idea they made her boring or not, the update only seemed to fan the flames about whether it was a good portrayal by making the fortune cards a significant part of her moveset. She doesn't use her hammer in any of the story cutscenes, but does consult the cards. Since then, they've really been pushing the cards as a core part of her character, making an episode of Tales Tube about them and even releasing a real-world deck of the things, among other examples. Some fans swear up and down that this means the cards are replacing Amy's hammer as her main thing entirely. So, let's compare the hammer to card ratio from Final Horizon onward and see if fortune really is overshadowing blunt force. Here's Amy's skill tree in Sonic Frontiers. The jump, homing attack, double jump, boost, side loop, multi-lock, and spin dash don't use either one, so we can rule those out. Then we have the card float, card attack, card stomp, card spin and its infinite upgrade, the parry and its upgrade, Psy hammer, high card jump, and the card spin boost. So in all, that's 6 for the cards, 3 for the hammer, and 1 for both. Add an extra point for the card's use in the story, as well as 2 for the hammer and 1 for the card's use in promotional material, and yeah, the fortune cards do indeed take precedence in Frontiers. In Sonic Superstars, the Pico Pico hammer is featured in the opening animation, as well as in Amy's jump animation, the hammer rush, and in promotionals. The fortune cards are nowhere to be found. Point goes to the hammer. Next is Sonic Dream Team. Hammer in promotionals, opening animation, cutscenes, and one of Amy's idle animations. Cards nowhere to be seen. Another point to Pico Pico. The fortune cards do make an appearance in Amy's 30th anniversary comic by IDW, but haven't appeared since as of the time of this video's writing. Meanwhile, she summoned a hammer in 4 of the regular issues released since Final Horizon, as well as the Winter Jam special. This one, once again, goes to the hammer. With the release of Sonic X Shadow Generations, the team went back and made some changes to the cutscene dialogue as well as the character profiles in the original generations. Leaving aside the concerns of the hashtag #LetAmyLovePeople on Twitter, which were soundly proven incorrect once the game actually came out, Amy's new profile adds both items to her description, showing that Sega wants to emphasize the cards going forward as if they were there the whole time. Here's my take on the whole thing. Sega's strong emphasis on the cards and rewriting things to imply they've always been there is weird for sure, but we've still been seeing more of the Pico Pico hammer since they've started doing this. I think the emphasizing of the cards just makes it seem like they've been getting more attention than they actually are. Instead, I would contend that what the cards are replacing is another one of Amy's traits, albeit a minor one. She had extremely good intuition. Being able to find Sonic in SA1, 06, and Unleashed purely by hoping she could, or this moment here with Rouge during the Chow races in IDW. It wasn't seen often, but Amy had a notable penchant for this sort of stuff without straight up having future sight. We can't be sure unless one of the people who worked on this stuff says it, but this might have even been the original replacement for her mystic interests in the first place. They've essentially traded in this minor trait for the cards as a major one, but they don't have to be mutually exclusive either. Maybe Amy really does have some kind of latent ability and the cards are just a placebo? That'd be pretty cool. Whatever the case may be, the fortune cards are likely here to stay, but rest assured, the Pico Pico hammer is too. Thanks for watching. Feel free to let me know what you thought about the video in the comments. Give it a like if you liked it, or a dislike if you didn't. If you'd like to see more, subscribe and click the bell for notifications. It's free and you can opt out anytime. Here's a playlist with similar content, and my Twitter. I have been Skull902, thank you again for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day.
I think I'm a furry now.